What's up guys, it's James Allen, the Out-of-State Investor, and in today's video we're going to break down the latest information regarding the housing market, whether or not we're heading towards a housing market crash based on the most recent data we have, and most importantly, if you're a potential home buyer in today's market, at the end of this video you're going to know whether or not now is a good time to buy a house, and more importantly, avoid some serious mistakes if you choose to buy in this market. Now before I break this down, do me a favor and smash that like button, and if this is your first time visiting the channel, I buy rental properties and flip houses, and I teach you guys how you can build massive wealth doing the same thing, in addition to how you can be smarter with your personal finances. So if any of that sounds interesting, definitely subscribe, hit that notification bell, and with that said, let's jump into it. Right now we're experiencing a red hot market. Homes are flying off the market the minute they get listed, and a huge part of this is this record low mortgage rates that we're experiencing right now. And this is really starting to pent up some significant buyer demand to the likes that we haven't seen in over 40 years. In addition to that, the unemployment rate is just continuing to go down month after month after month ever since we hit the high in April when the pandemic started basically. And in addition to that, mortgage delinquency rates are doing the same thing. Every month just progressing and getting lower and lower. So this is a strong sign that we're heading in the right direction, but does it mean that we're in the clear? Are we really free of concern when it comes to a housing market crash? Well, in order to determine that, we really have to take a deeper look into what's going on in this housing market. According to the National Association of Realtors, at the end of December, we recorded the lowest amount of housing supply since they started tracking the metric back in 1982. So that's over 40 years ago now that we have the lowest amount of supply. So this is a huge deal because if you understand real estate, prices are really driven from supply and demand. And when you have a very low amount of supply, it's naturally going to push prices higher in the short term. Now to put it in perspective, you have a buyer's market and a seller's market. Now you might have heard of those terms before. With a buyer's market, you're talking about a market with 6 or more months of inventory. With a seller's market, you're talking about anything less than 4 months of inventory. And then in between that, you have what's called a balanced market, anywhere from 4 to 6 months of inventory. Well, right now we currently stand at 1.9 months of inventory, which is a very strong seller's market. Now with that said, let's take a look at the most up-to-date information according to Redfin Data Center. Now we can see on the graph that we're actually starting to see a slight rise going in the inventory levels. Now don't be alarmed, this is very normal, and you can see that if you compare it to previous years, it's actually doing the same thing it does every year, which is going up in the wintertime. Another important thing to note is that nationwide crashes hardly ever happen in real estate. In fact, if you look at this graph, you'll see that from 1900, over 120 years ago, there's only been one major real estate crash, and even if you account for inflation, you're talking about 2 major real estate crashes since 1900. So the point to take away from this is that it's really important to look at your local market statistics and judge on a market by market basis rather than just solely going on nationwide statistics. Now taking a step back, like I mentioned, the unemployment rate and mortgage delinquency rates have been consistently going down month after month after month. But as of November to December, the unemployment rate actually stayed the same this time. Hey guys, quick update. Right after I shot this video, the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually released an update sharing their January statistics for the unemployment rate. And as you can see, as of December, we were at a 6.7% unemployment rate, and now for January, we've gone down even further to a 6.3% unemployment rate. This is great news. Once again, we're getting more jobs back in this country. Remember, these are just nationwide statistics, so also keep an eye on local statistics as they get released later on in this month. Now, I'm not quite as concerned regarding mortgage delinquencies, and the reason for that is not only are we continually going down with another 3.9% drop from last month, but in addition to that, homeowners continue to have more and more equity available to them than ever before. So many of these people that are even seriously delinquent will be able to avoid foreclosure. Now, one thing you want to keep an eye on is job loss in places like Texas, Wyoming, and Louisiana, because those states and a few other states as well have high concentration of oil and gas jobs. And depending on what the Biden administration does with regards to restrictions in that area, it could play a huge role in people losing their jobs, which could could have a negative effect on the housing market for those local markets. So with that said, is now the right time to be buying a house? Well, honestly, for me, in most markets, I think that now is not a bad time to be buying. With the all-time low interest rates, I think you can get very affordable housing even with the higher prices that we're currently seeing. But with that said, there are a few things I want you to take away of how you can be smarter with your home buying choice to protect you over the long run. Now, at this stage in the market, with everything that's going on, the riskiest thing you can possibly do right now is buy as much house as you can afford with a turnkey or new construction property, putting as little as a down payment as possible. That is an extremely risky position to put yourself in. You could easily go underwater, you could easily not afford your monthly payments, and you do not want to put yourself in that position. Now, I get it. Maybe you feel you need to move, your family grew, maybe you want to cut down on your commute to work, you're tired of that apartment lifestyle, whatever it might be. I understand that there's a reason to want to move, and I believe that there's a way to do it in this market, but you just have to be smart about it. So you might be wondering, well then, how am I supposed to buy smart in this market? Well, I think the first question you need to ask yourself is, can I afford it? And when I say can you afford it, normally the standard metric that people use is you shouldn't spend more than 1/3 of your income on your housing payments. Now, in this situation that we're currently dealing with, you might want to go even more conservative on that and break that down to even lower at a 25% of your income to just be extra conservative to protect you in case of maybe a pay drop or something like that happening in your household. So the next question you need to ask yourself is, how much of a down payment can you afford? Now, if you can afford a 20% down payment, that could be an ideal situation, because if you're worried about what the housing market is going to do, even if it took a 20% nosedive, you're still not going to be underwater on your mortgage. In addition to that, if you pay 20% down, you'll avoid paying PMI, which stands for private mortgage insurance. Now, private mortgage insurance is basically an extra added monthly cost on top of your monthly mortgage payment, and it's for anybody who puts less than 20% down on the house. Now, with that said, the downside of 20% is it's obviously a lot of money for a lot of people. Not everybody has a 20% down payment, and that's understandable. So the other alternative is putting 5% down. And long term, the ROI is actually going to be better putting 5% down, but it also comes with greater risk. You see, all it takes with a 5% down payment for you to get screwed is a 10% market correction. Now you're underwater on your mortgage, and that puts you in a real risky situation financially. So to avoid this, rather than going for your turnkey and new construction properties, this is why I highly recommend looking for properties that you can add value to. Properties that need some fixing up, some tender love and care. Now, the reason I like Fixer Upper so much, and I do this all the time as an investor myself, is you can make an ugly house look good again. And not only that, but you also get a much better rate of return, because you can put $25,000 of rehab into a house and have it worth $50,000 more, whereas if you put $25,000 extra as a down payment, you're only getting $25,000 more in equity. And if you force enough equity after fixing it up, you may even be able to refinance and remove your PMI costs altogether, because you built 20% worth of equity with only a 5% down payment plus your rehab costs. Now, maybe a fixer-upper isn't for you, and that's completely fine, but at the same time, you still need some level of protection, especially if you're putting 5% down and you're buying some new construction or turnkey property. You need to have some level of protection in place. The solution to this is you just plan on buying a house that you live in for the next 10 or more years, because this will ride you through any potential downturn over the short term, as long as you can make those monthly payments, which brings me back to that point. If you have affordable monthly payments at 25% of your income, then you're going to be in the clear and you're going to make it through a downturn. Now, another way to go about this is eventually you could turn your house into a rental property. Now, it's no secret that owning rental property builds massive wealth over the long term. In fact, 90% of millionaires are invested in real estate, so that alone should tell you something. But on top of that, it gives you the flexibility to move out of the house at some point if you wanted to upgrade or do something like that, and you could just rent out your house to somebody else who pays your bills for you. But the point I want to make is that in this stage of the market cycle, we still don't know what's going to happen. There's not a crash guaranteed to happen. I don't think it's going to happen in 2021, even if it does happen, but you really want to protect yourself in every way possible so that you're not vulnerable for being underwater on your mortgage or not being able to afford your mortgage payments. So with that said, be smart. If you're going to buy a house right now, take these precautions I talked about and laid out in this video, but at the same time, if you felt like you gained some value today, go ahead and smash that like button and also subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos like this. Also, let me know in the comments below if you think we're heading towards a market crash, and in addition to that, what steps you're taking to protect yourself if you're trying to buy at this stage in the market cycle. Lastly, follow me on Instagram at The Out of State Investor. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.